Yesterday, Cory Hogue, our small college insider, was in town, and so we took the opportunity to pick his brain about all things small college football in the state of Texas. Here is my talk with DCTF small college insider Cory Hogue here on Texas Football Today. Season is careening towards us at an incredible rate of speed, and we got to get up to speed with our small college insider here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. We are joined by our friend Cory Hogue. Cory, thanks for coming. More importantly, thank you for bringing your wife and your son and the cookies.
Yes, well, now you can see why I look like I do. And it's going to be hard for you.
Yeah, no.
Because you can't indulge too much right now. You're a couple weeks.
Yeah, this is becoming an increasingly uncomfortable time of year for me, where you guys show up with cookies and I'm trying to fit into a suit. So
yeah.
Forces working against one another. All right, the small college world in Texas is, of course, the landscape is changing, kind of like everyone. For people who have maybe slept through the last year, can you get us up to speed on the new look in the small colleges across the state?
What's funny is if you did kind of sleep through the last year, you might actually be a little more up to speed than I am right now. Because you've got UIW now staying in the Southland. Lamar said we're going to exit a year early from the WAC to head back. And, in Lone Star Conference, Commerce is left. A lot more talk going on at D2, and the future of D2 is a real big question mark that we'll be working on over the next few months, because that's not something that's going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, I think much like you're seeing at the Division I level, at the FBS level, there's been kind of some shifts in the small college ranks, but it feels like there's even another shoe to drop coming in the next year, couple of years, stuff like that. So.
And when I talked to Commissioner Jay Perner at the media day, he said that. He said, we're going to have to make more adjustments. It's not over yet. They started it first in a way with Tarleton, and then you had the Texas 4 going to the wagon, and then all of a sudden Texas and Oklahoma are like, hey, they start the big ball rolling up top, and now that's not even done yet. So there's going to be another round sweeping through.
Yeah, it trickles down to every level in college football. All right, we're going to go conference by conference and just get your overall breakdown of the teams in the state of Texas in those conferences. We'll start at the FCS level. Kind of the OG conference at the FCS level here in the state of Texas is the Southland Conference. Another new look this year and shifting sands, maybe though kind of grabbing back a little bit of that stability that they had lost. When you take a look at the Southland on the field heading into 2022, what's your read on what we're going to see from there?
No conference has changed more than the Southland. They've gone from strong to are they going to survive to the strongest FCS conference with Texas teams in it in a matter of like 6 months. It's incredible what has happened there. And so with UIW staying, that's huge. Southeastern Louisiana is going to be good. Nichols is always good. But UIW, new coach, you got G.J. Kinney in there, new quarterback. You've got Lindsey Scott Jr. coming in from Nichols. So he's got that experience. They have a defense that you better watch out for. UIW is a threat in the Southland. And, of course, Commerce is in their first year. That's going to be interesting to see what happens with them this year.
Yeah, I'm interested in talking a little bit more about Commerce. This is the program that obviously had great success at the Division II level, making their first move up to the Division I level there at FCS. You hear all the time that the biggest difference is depth, but it seems like they've got the right guy at the helm in David Bailiff. Is that a team that could maybe overcome some of those early growing pains and be a team that wins in year one?
It's a great question. The problem is when you go from D2 to FCS, it's the same thing Tarleton ran into. And if you remember, Tarleton made a big surprise. They won a few games right at the beginning, then kind of faded towards the end of the spring season. They only had like 5 or 6 games first. Commerce doesn't have that. They've got a full schedule. And what you find is injuries take place in football. And so when you go from 36 to 63 scholarships, your depth while you're building that, and that's why there's that transition period built into from moving to D2 to FCS, because you're building up those scholarships. They're not funding all of them right away. And so now you don't have, you look at, let's take a team that's been perennially real good, like Sam Houston. They're too deep, could start at any time. You don't have that kind of depth when you're just moving up to the FCS level.
They'll certainly be a team to watch because we know that they're very excited up there in Commerce. The investment is there. It's going to be interesting to see them. All right, let's move over to the WAC. The WAC, I think you mentioned Sam. They're, of course, a perennial power in their final year there at the FCS ranks,
yes.
Making the move up to Conference USA starting next year. But their big rival, the Battle of the Piney Woods, all of a sudden looking even more tantalizing than normal. And am I wrong in looking at the top of that conference and seeing Stephen F. and Sam Houston duking it out for conference supremacy?
Well, Sam Houston's not eligible to win the conference this year, so that's going to play a role. I think, of course, SFA. I mean, there's a reason why they are favored to do really well. They're starting the season ranked 10th in the polls and nationally, and I think that might be a little low. I really think they're going to make a run through the playoffs this year. Sam is an interesting case because their AD, Bobby Williams, was on a podcast through the Bearcat Sports Network last night, and he's pushing his coaches to focus on Conference USA more than this year. And so I've heard recently Casey Keeler talked to the alumni, and there were some things kind of coming out on that on social media from Sports of SHSU. They were there kind of giving it, and he talked about that too. They're going to use the red shirt to their advantage this year at Sam to keep some of these guys an extra year while they begin that transition to CUSA. So the on-field product, they're going to compete. Look, if it's a Coach Keeler team, they're out to win every game. But who he has to put out there every game may not be who you expect.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you mentioned that with Sam not being able to win the conference, things like that. For SFA, I mean, you talk about it in a lot of ways, like, I don't want to say different motivations, but also just different goals. They both have different goals. For Sam, it kind of seems like maybe they're building for 2023. They want to make sure that they're ready to hit the ground running in the FBS level. For SFA, best team they've had in a long time. Where I sit, a certified national championship contender at the FCS ranks. And so you talk about like the two powers there, really in the FCS ranks in Texas. Kind of playing for different end goals here, which is going to make this particularly interesting.
And there will be a pause in the Battle of the Piney Woods. That's something that Bobby Williams did say. There will be a pause, but they're looking at only a short pause. I think the basketball may continue, but football end. Sam does want to keep going to NRG because now they have a 15,000 minimum attendance average they have to maintain at FBS level. And so that game helps him out with that a lot. So they want to still play at NRG, but they are in two different directions. Sam Houston is looking towards 2023, 2024, a bowl, and their recruiting class. Man, let me tell you, Coach Keeler's pulling in. That staff is incredible. He is pulling in the recruits right now. They are battling with the big dogs in Texas already for some of these top recruits. So they're going to be fine. SFA reminds me of the 2017 Texas A&M Commerce.
High praise.
That team won a national title, and they've got the same setup. They've got a defense that can just dominate. They have a quarterback who is very efficient and perfect game manager. Luis Perez is not going to wow you with an arm strength or anything like that. Well, neither's Trey Self, but you know what? They're going to get you down the field, and they're going to score some points. They've got a dynamic wide receiver, game changer in Xavier Gibson. That team, to win a national title, things have to break right for you. So I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I'm telling you, it wouldn't surprise me to see them be one of the teams to keep our little small college Texas tradition going of a national champion almost every single year.
There is, of course, one other FCS conference in the state of Texas, and that's the SWAC with Prairie View A&M and Texas Southern. I think I look at what Texas Southern did last year. It seems small, right? 3 wins. For a lot of programs, 3 wins, you roll out of bed, you get through. 3 wins would be a huge disappointment. It feels like maybe, finally for the Tigers, they've got a little bit of momentum there. Andrew Body, I mean, you get a quarterback and things change. I look at this and the HBCU football is on the rise across the country. It's exciting football, and for both Prairie View and Texas Southern, for the first time in a long time, we can say for both programs, the future seems really bright.
It really does. And starting with Texas Southern, what Coach Clarence McKinney has done there is just, I mean, it's incredible. Like, that guy
miraculous almost.
And to win 3 games last year felt like 6 or 7. It really did, and it does from an outside point of view. So I can't imagine how good it feels from the inside point of view. A couple of things, though, I think coming into this year, number one, Andrew Body is the real deal. Sophomore year can be a struggle for a lot of college quarterbacks. So can he take that next step this year without struggles? The other thing is that schedule. That is hard. 4 of their first 5 are on the road. They're playing FBS teams. I don't see more than maybe 3 or 4 wins in that schedule this year. And if they were to equal last year's win total, that would actually be a positive compared to last year.
Yeah, we hear that with a number of other. When we talk at the FBS ranks, we hear teams that like they could have the same schedule or the same record or even just like marginally better, marginally worse, but be a significantly better team.
Yeah.
Texas Southern could be that kind of team.
They really look like that, and they've got the offensive line. What Coach McKinney has done to rebuild that is really good. And then you look at Prairie View, of course. Coach Eric Dooley, who thought that he would leave a Grambling guy?
I know.
Who left Prairie View for Southern. I mean, this guy, he does not care about rivalries in the HBCU.
No.
But Bubba McDowell stepping in there, the perfect choice. I couldn't have thought of a better candidate for Prairie View A&M than Bubba McDowell. The players love him, and that tells you a lot. They're going to play hard for him. They don't have Jackson State on their schedule this year. So I think that automatically kind of makes them a favorite to get to that SWAC title game again this year.
Yeah, they're certainly great football being played there in the SWAC, and 2 really exciting programs with exciting coaching staffs and some really players who are worth the price of admission, most certainly. All right, that's Division I. Let's now move to Division II, the Lone Star Conference. Last time I saw you was at Lone Star Conference Media Days. We talked a little bit there. This is a new look conference. They've entered into an alliance with the GNAC, the Great Northwest Athletic Conference. So yes, A&M Kingsville's playing a game against a team from Canada.
Yes.
So when you take a look at the Lone Star Conference, the newly constituted Lone Star Conference, there was a little bit of controversy last year. Angelo State, their best year in program history, basically, or at least tying it. But they were not even the conference champion.
No.
And so the conference champion left out of the playoffs. It's a whole mess there in the Lone Star Conference. Sort out the Lone Star Conference for us.
I wish I could. I really do. You mentioned Kingsville playing Simon Fraser. We don't know where they're playing Simon Fraser. We know right now it will not be Canada this year. That is, we know that no team will actually go into Canada. But will they play the game, or where are they going to play? So I've heard... I'm trying to confirm right now the location. I've heard Western Washington is the spot, and there's always logistics and details that goes into everything when you're talking college and athletics and finances and football. So that's still kind of getting worked out. I'm waiting on the finalization for that one. So that right there. These teams don't even know, they don't have hotel rooms yet if they're traveling to play because they don't know where to go. So there's so much uncertainty right now, and that is the way with the whole league. That transfer portal did a number on Division II, especially Angelo State. They lost the best offensive lineman, Willis Patrick, went to Jackson State. That was huge, and the offensive line took a big hit. I got to tell you, my preseason favorite was Angelo State. When I did the magazine, when the media day comes, they're no longer my preseason favorite. Now, my preseason favorite is now Midwestern State because of what we found out yesterday, that Dylan Sterling Cole is back. Granted, another season of eligibility, and so he is back. And Midwestern has their defensive players back. Malik Owens is just a beast on the defensive line. They've got wide receivers that are so fast and quick. The only thing that team was missing was a quarterback to get them the ball. Well, DSC helps them right there. Dylan Sterling Cole is a huge help to them. So now I would think that maybe MSU is and talking to Coach Maskell, I get that feeling from him because he's really grumpy right now. And the grumpier he is.
That's a good tell.
Because if he's happy right now, he's probably not going to have a good season. It's going to be, but as the season goes on now, he knows because he's drilling into these guys.
Yeah, and the Lone Star Conference at the very top, I think that, last year you saw a lot of those teams at the top kind of beat each other up, which kind of was why, conference champion gets left out, but a runner-up gets into the playoffs, goes 3 rounds deep. I do think that overall, I look at the Texas teams especially. I'll admit, I'll plead ignorance on the teams from the GNAC, Simon Fraser, the teams from Oregon and Washington. it does seem like maybe the overall quality of play there in the Lone Star Conference is on the rise within the Texas programs. I like West Texas A&M. I think Kingsville could take a nice step.
Oh.
I mean, I think overall, when you take a look at the 5 teams in the Lone Star Conference, I think that there is upward momentum between those 5 teams.
There is, and you mentioned West Texas A&M. If you've got the Defensive Player of the Year in the preseason, J.T. Cavender, he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
You have a talent, right? And they've got a lot of talent. And that's another team that didn't lose a ton. They lost some in the transfer portal, kind of iffy with it. But I think overall they may be a better this year. The question for West Texas A&M is consistency. Can they play at a high level every single week? That's what they need to do. That's what Coach Hughes is looking for there. When you talk about Kingsville, we talk about what coaches are doing to programs around here. Coach Salinas, Mike Salinas down there at Kingsville, that is amazing. He took a program that was tattered and broken when he took over in just a few short years. This team's going to be, they can really be pretty good this year. Then when you add in the GNAC, you actually do strengthen the conference quite a bit. They already had a scheduling alliance against them, so they were playing those teams. But you've got Western Oregon. That team is always going to, or Central Washington. You know, that team's always tough. Western Oregon, that's one that can sneak up and bite you. Simon Fraser is the one this year that they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
They didn't play football for a few years. Like this coach took over. I don't even know how many players he had. So it's going to be a struggle for Simon Fraser.
We would be remiss if we did not mention the other team, the only Texas team we haven't mentioned, which is UT Permian Basin.
Yes.
Of course, kind of the big breakout star of 2020, with their undefeated record, in kind of a shortened season. 2021 comes around. I would say, kind of much like we were talking about with other programs, record may not show it, but I thought that maybe some important steps forward. When you take a look at what Justin Kerrigan is doing there at UTPB, I think even in their infancy, the state of the union there, I think, is strong there for UTPB.
It is.
Yeah.
What he's done there is incredible. And we say it's still in the infancy because it is. That program is not even 10 years old, yet he is now second longest tenured head coach in the Lone Star Conference.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
Behind Bill Maskell. So that just tells you how much change has happened. But look, Coach Kerrigan's got a team, and he's been real quiet. I think they could be a sneaky one to watch out for in that Lone Star Conference because he's been so kind of down low. And I think he knows he's got a really good team out there, and he's got a wide receiver. MJ Link is a game changer out there himself. So they've got, it was a young team last year. They've always got a great linebacker core. They're going to be good.
The Lone Star Conference figures to be a lot of fun. All right, let's now drop to Division III, where I really can't stress enough that it's Cory Hogue who writes the magazine in Division III, because the American Southwest Conference, you have the defending national champions, Mary Hardin Baylor. I mean, what an incredible run. They bring back their quarterback, Kyle King, who was such a star for them. And that is why you, Cory Hogue, Cory.Hogue at TexasFootball.com, chose Hardin Simmons to win the conference.
Yes, I did.
You email, this is 100% true. You send in your copy to me.
Yes.
And in there, you don't normally just say, hey, here's the Lone Star Conference preview, something like that. And you you're like, I think I'm going to get some people talking with my American Southwest Conference. We've certainly got them talking.
Yeah.
Hardin Simmons over Mary Hardin Baylor in the American Southwest Conference.
And it looks even worse when you look at now that they're the preseason #1 by all the publications, right? It's like,
but they had to be. They're the national champions.
They're the national champions, and they return a lot. They also lose some. Not a ton, but they lose some. Coach Fredenberg. Look, that is an adjustment. Their coach. You don't have to worry about the head coaching position there at Mary Hardin Baylor. They're going to be fine on the field. That's not where I'm really concerned. The offensive coordinator, Stephen Lee, leaving and going to Abilene Christian. That is huge because when they've started this run of national titles, started like 16. Stephen Lee was their offensive coordinator. And that started right as he arrived. And that's not a coincidence. He's a really good offensive coordinator. So him moving on, there's going to be new system. There may be new lingo. A lot of things to adjust to. They have a good quarterback. Kyle King's not going to lose a game. He can fling the ball down the field. He's got talented wide receivers. They're going to put up some points. The defense is going to be pretty good, but you still have the defensive coordinator that's now the head coach. So there still could be some transition in there too. So I see some uncertainty that if you're going to win a national title, you're going to win the American Southwest Conference right now, you start fall camp, you need to be ahead of where they are right now. They're kind of building. Hardin-Simmons is not. Hardin-Simmons has at least 10 returners on each side of the ball. They host Mary Hardin-Baylor. That coaching staff knows, and at some point, in some year, the streak will end. And it just, when I was looking at this in April, and I still look at it today, and I don't change my opinion, I still pick Hardin-Simmons today because I just think if the stars are ever aligned for it to happen, it's this year.
It's bold. It's certainly bold, and there's a lot to like. It's also worth mentioning. Go back to last year, the Hardin-Simmons and Mary Hardin-Baylor game. Razor's edge type stuff. Very, Mary Hardin-Baylor had to work real hard to get that win. It was very narrow. Hardin-Simmons, I think there's an argument they can close that gap, and especially just coming home, things like that. And it may end up being that, the rest of that conference, I think it's fair to say those are the two best teams, the American South.
They are. And the other thing about Hardin-Simmons is their schedule is they have all the teams that could give them a challenge pretty much at home, except for one, and it's a sneaky one. Last year, after they only lost by 6 points, by the way. They played the national champion closer than anybody else in the entire season. So we know they're good. They returned that team. But the next week, they played McMurray. McMurray almost snuck up on them. It was a 3-point win. Well, they have McMurray again at McMurray this year. So that could actually be a sneaky one for Hardin-Simmons to look at because McMurray is nothing to sneeze at. What Jordan Neal has done to build that program back up. And then, Howard Payne. They're not a pushover. Coach Jason Bachtel there, he's put together, and it started before him. He's just carrying it on through. It's really incredible what you see there. Sol Ross has got some questions. They got a new coach. First time in a while they've had a new coach. Austin College, it seems like they're still kind of building. They are getting a new turf put in, which will really be nice there in Sherman. That's almost complete. There's just so many. Southwestern, you got Landry Gilpin. You have a chance, right? Like that's just how it is. And Texas Lutheran, another new head coach. That's a program that has got a lot of questions. Third head coach in about 3 seasons or 4 seasons. It's really tough for them right now. They've kind of slid. It'll be interesting to see how they do. But there's one sneaky team that if I don't mention them, I'm going to get blown up, and it's East Texas Baptist. That team can always play with anyone. Coach Maper, and he gets them ready. They play a hard non-conference, and he gets them ready. My hope this year is we get at least 2 ASC teams in the playoffs. Because if Hardin-Simmons loses out because they played one game that they couldn't find an opponent of D3, and they play an NAIA school, that's just not right in my opinion.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. We've talked about a lot of favorites. I know, we like Incarnate Word, Stephen F. Austin, Sam, of course. Both SWAC teams, especially Prairie View, has an opportunity to make a run at the FCS level. We talked a little bit about Angelo State, Midwestern State at the very top of the Lone Star Conference, although the conference is pretty strong as a whole. Hardin-Simmons, Mary Hardin-Baylor, but again, the ASC pretty strong. I want to hear about who's the surprise team? Who's the sneaky team that maybe nobody's paying attention to right now, but you've got your eye on and you think could be that team that we're talking about and say, wow, what a great year that they were able to put together?
I'll give you one for each
level. I love it.
One for each level. Start at FCS, Abilene Christian. Okay. Biggest unknown there is right now. New coach, new coordinators, everything has changed. But they also brought in like 19 FBS guys. And Coach Patterson, it's his first head coaching job, but he knows what he's doing, and it seems like they could be a surprise. And another one there, look, Tarleton, they're not eligible yet to win the title, but this could be a year they take another step forward to where next year when they are eligible, there'll be something to be talked about. Division II, Texas A&M Kingsville is a threat, and they became a bigger threat when I confirmed on Media Day that Miklo Smalls is their quarterback. That is huge. We're talking about a Lone Star Conference Player of the Year type of player that heading up a team that was doing really well last year. Man, they're going to be a team that could really surprise some people if they have some depth. If they stay healthy, they're going to be a team. Division III, watch out for McMurray. I'm gonna put. I think that they're to an area now that they've got. Coach Neal's been there long enough. He's built up some depth on that roster. I think now I'm not saying they challenge at the top, but I'm saying they get up kind of that next tier, kind of up there with Howard Payne is right now.
Okay.
So we're talking, it's good things when you get up to that tier right there. And then we didn't talk Trinity in Division III.
Yeah.
That team could be a national champion. I was at the game last year when they nearly defeated Mary Hardin Baylor in the first round of the playoffs. Whoever comes out of those three in Texas between Trinity, Hardin-Simmons, and Mary Hardin Baylor, that's my national champion favorite, because that's a monster of three teams right there. But you go down to NAI, Texas Wesleyan, starting with the Global Classico here in a couple of weeks. Watch out for the Rams. They were picked second in the conference, and there's a reason. That team, what Coach Prudhomme has done there, oh my goodness. That team was nothing a few years ago. When I started this, they were in their first year too. Like that was 5 years ago, and here they are challenging. They were picked ahead of Arizona Christian, who's a perennial NAI, pretty good powerhouse team there. So they're picked right behind Ottawa. That's going to be fun to watch. Then you look at the JUCO rank. And it's whoever can win the SWJCFC, right? Like, I mean,
who knows, man? Draw a name. It feels like every single year just draw a name.
And when I was doing the power poll, this is one of the reasons I'm kind of glad we're kind of shifting away from that power poll just a little bit, because how do you say a 6-4 Trinity Valley, Navarro, Kilgore, they all beat up on each other?
Yeah.
And so how do you differentiate these teams? You beat one week, lose to you're like. There's no transitive properties. There's nothing in JUCO. It's just who can come out of that title.
Who can get hot. Exactly right.
And you got to remember, too, New Mexico Military Institute is the defending national champion from that conference. So that conference always usually puts a team right there in the national title picture.
He's Cory Hogue. Nobody covers small colleges in the state of Texas like Cory. You're on Republic of Football later today, and then I believe we've got an extra podcast coming out with you. Craven's so excited just nerd out with you.
We are going to nerd out on small college. You think this was nerding out?
This was surface level,
This
guys.
was surface. I have notes. So I got my computer and I got notes. So yeah.
Cory, appreciate you stopping by, my friend.
Thank you.
There he is, our friend Cory Hogue. I always think it's weird whenever you cut from me to me.
Yeah, it's too much you. I'm glad we agree on something.
Our friend Cory Hogue joining us yesterday in the studio to talk small college football. The man knows a lot. The man knows a lot.
Yeah, if you missed ROF yesterday, he was on that too. So go back and you can watch that.
You can get a snootful of Cory Hogue. And by the way, I believe there's a fresh episode of Republic of Football coming out in the Republic of Football feed with Mike Craven and Cory Hogue just nerding out, like going super deep on FCS.
Like that was like the chips and salsa to how deep into
this
it.
Is the and that podcast is the Botana platter.
Yeah,
just like got
the Luann platter.
Yeah, no, Luann platter is
it's Luby's.
Yeah, but that's not the point of a Botana platter. Is like there's everything. Like a ton of it. Like a Luann platter is a normal amount of food. It's like normally meatloaf and then like some mashed potatoes and another vegetable, and then you get some Jello at the end. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.